Are you ready? All right, so now I want to add my 0.1. I know that I want to add it because from where the tool was positioned, the tool is going to go positive in both the X and Y. So I'm just going to type 0.1, and then we can see the input box. If I press enter, it's going to change that by 0.1 of an inch. Same being said for Y. If I say 0.1, we want to add 0.1 or move the tool positive 0.1. We'll hit enter, and we can see it changes by 0.1. All right, so now I'm going to press and hold Z positive. I'm going to change it to 0.01 and press and hold, and the tool is going to move up to a clear position. All right, so we're at a clear position. So now I can change tools. I want to grab my spot drill. So that's tool number 1. So if I close my door, I'm going to press the MDI button. We want to erase this program. So we're going to say erase program. We want to tell it to do a tool change. So M06. And we want tool number 1. So we're going to say T01. Enter. You can see it populates in the dialog box. Same thing as before. We're going to do the 2 thumb rule. So cycle start. It will always go Z positive before it's not going to go anywhere on this machine. It's just going to go Z positive, and for sake of our time, we're going to speed it up. All right, so now program's done. It tells us right here, program end. Now we have our spot drill. Our spot drill is going to be touched off from the flat surface, like our step. Sorry, the spot drill is going to be touched off from the step of the part. So we have tool setters. I have one of these at every machine. So I have a tool setter. All we're looking for is when this dial comes around to 0. It doesn't have to make multiple passes, it's just one time. When that hits 0, the distance from the top surface here, or from the tip of the tool to where it's sitting, is exactly 4 inches. So I'm gonna set this on here, push it as far back as it will go. And now I want to align this somewhat with the center. The center pin on the indicator, the pin is on center, so we want to get somewhere close. Some of these have indents from students crashing into them, so you might not be able to get exactly on center, but that's all right. So we'll set it on here. Now this is where it's really important to be watching the students as they're bringing the tool down. So I'm going to press hand jog. I'm going to go to 0.01 for my X and Y. So we're going to say X. I want to dial this X positive, so we're going to dial X positive. So I get it lined up in X positive. Now I want to go Y. I'm going to go Y positive just a little bit because I can see that it's not quite to center. And since this one has an indent, I'm going to go a little bit past on the X, just so it doesn't fall in that little indent. If it falls in the indent, then your numbers aren't going to be exactly 4 inches. Now I'm going to bring it down in the Z. On this, I'm going to turn it down to 0.01. For the students, it's all right if they crank it for quite a while. They at least like have some time with the machine. So I'm going to slowly bring this down. And as they're dialing it down, I generally stand to the side and I'm watching them. So as they're dialing this down, as it gets close, and right when I see that dial move, I turn it down to 0.001, 0001. So 1/10 of an inch per click. That way, if anything happens, if you forget to type 0.01 or click 0.01, you at least are watching as they're coming down and you can stop it before they crash into the tool holder. All right, so now I'm just going to dial it negative until the dial is straight in line with 0. And this you kind of have to get, for myself, I have to get a little closer to see it. All right, so I want the needle to line up with 0. We want it to it's kind of a half rotation, a little more than half. It should not go around multiple times. It doesn't have that much travel in the indicator. So now, what I want to do is I want to be in my tool offsets page, We can see it tells us tool number 1 is in the spindle, and I want to set the geometry. So I'm going to cursor over. So now there's a 0 value. We want to change that. We want to input what's in our machine into that value. So we're going to say tool offset measure, and that number should populate in there. Now, what we've told it is that the tool is 4 inches from the top of the surface, but we want to tell the machine when the tip of the tool is at the top surface. So we're going to subtract 4 inches. So we're just going to say minus 4.0 in the input box, and if I press enter, it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to make that change? 4 inches is a big change in a machine this small. So I'm going to say yes. We'll press Y for yes. Now this number and this number currently should be 5 inches difference. So we can see, or sorry, this number and this number should be a difference of 4. So at this point, I never have the students press Z positive or Z negative because I don't want them to crash into the tool setter. So what I do is, once they've moved from the machine or they've set their tool offset measure, I step in and I say, I'm going to take this out. So I make sure that they're not touching any dial. I just pull it out, and we can set it on the shelf for now. That way there's no possibility of them crashing into the tool setter. So, all right, so now I've got my tool offset is set, my work offset is set. Now I'm ready to run the program. The program only calls out for one tool. And that program only calls out for one tool, which is tool number 1. So if I press memory, we can see in our program tool number 1, it's going to call out G54, calls out the height offset register number 1, which is what we just set. So this is where it's really important. We do our 2-thumb rule. We're going to set it in single block. So I'm going to press single block. You can see single block comes up on the screen. And that just means every time I press cycle start, it's going to do line by line or block by block, which the semicolon stands for an end of block, or EOB. And that's just what it means. It's going to go line by line. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cycle start it. And then I generally just read to the students or ask them what's going on the program. That way they have a little bit more engagement with the program, because a lot of times they're going to cycle start it and they're just going to be doing this, looking up at the ceiling, not paying attention. I want them to look at the program and know what's going on. So set work offset to G54 to the front left corner. That's what we did. Cycle start it again. Set the tool offset for 1/2 inch spot drill to the face of the front step. We did that. That's another check in the box. The date, we're not in fall 2006. It's a little old. So G20, I asked them, what is a G20? Is it inch mode? Is it millimeters? What does G20 do? And by this point, they should know their G codes or kind of have some of them memorized. So the next line, I'll cycle start. What's it going to do now? Well, it's going to rapid. It's going to shut off a bunch of different codes. It tells it to shut off cutter comp, can cycles, turn it to absolute. Cycle start. What's it going to do now? Just test tool. Used 1/2 inch spot drill to place in the position 1 on the carousel. So when I hit cycle start, we can see tool 1 M06. Since tool 1 is already in the spindle, it's not going to do a tool change, but it would execute a tool change if a different tool was in the spindle. Cycle start again, G91, G28. So in incremental mode, it's going to make an incremental move of 0 in the Z, so it's not going to go anywhere, and then it's going to go to the home position. So cycle start, this should be the first move. So it's moving up. Now what's it going to do? It's going to rapid in absolute to my work coordinate system, G54 coordinate system of X0, Y0, which should be the front left corner. So cycle start, and it should start moving. All right. Next line, G43, it's going to call out tool length compensation, and it's picking from height offset register number 1, which is this value. All right. So cycle start, shouldn't make a move. Sorry, it will make a move. Because I've already told it to go to Z of 1 inch above, it's going to make a move down. So it calls out tool length compensation from register 1, and it's going to move to 1 inch above. So it pulls that value and then moves to 1 inch above. And this is where it's really important. As it's coming down, we need to stop it. We're going to stop it about 2 inches above, and then just eyeball and see does it look like it's 2 inches or 1 inch. It's not critical at this point because it's going to be above the part, but we want them to stop it. What I do is just feed hold. I can change my position screen, so if I hit position, it's highlighted. Now I can keep clicking through the pages. I can see distance to go, I can see operator, I can see work offset. What I like to do is press current commands, and then I can page up to see all those values. It's not that important to know that, but I think that this is a little bit more helpful as you're running through the parts. So right now it says I have 1/4 of an inch to go to get to 1 inch above. So it tells us the work offset is 1.249. And then I usually open the door and ask the student, does this look from this position to the tip of the tool look like 1.25 inches? It does, so we're going to continue. If it didn't, that would be the time where you reset the program and figure out if your work offset is set correctly or your tool offset is set correctly. So I'm going to cycle start, and it'll finish this line of code. Now it should be 1 inch above, which it looks like it is. Now it's going to move down to 0.5 or 1/2 of an inch above. So it did. So now we have G01. It's going to make a linear move at 5 inches a minute, and we're going to go down to 0.1 of an inch. So it's going to be right above the surface. So this is where it's really important to have the 2 thumbs. We're going to cycle start and watch the tool to make sure it's not going to crash into the workpiece. So it stopped. It didn't run into the part. We'll cycle start again. It's going to move up 0.5. Now it's going to rapid up to Z of 2 inches. Now it's going to rapid to X 1.5, Y 2 inches. So it's going to move to the center of the pocket. All right, so it did. Now we're going down to Z of 0.2. 0.2 is above this work surface. So remember that that's our 0 position. So it's going to be inside that hole. So I'm going to hit cycle start. It's going to move down 0.2 above. So it's kind of in that hole. Now it's going to make a linear move down to negative 0.3. So this is where it's really important that we have 0.3 of an inch from here to here. So everybody's tool will already be set up, so they'll have that distance. So as long as the tool offset's set correctly, it should run fine. Cycle start. It's going to move down in. All right, on ours it's going to be very close. Now I'm going to cycle start again. It's going to feed up to 1/2 of an inch above at 10 inches a minute. All right, now we're going to go to rapid move to Z of 1 inch. And this is where it changes to incremental. It's going to make an incremental move of Z, nothing. So that means it's not going to move, and then it's going to go home. This is kind of a safe code to make sure it always goes to the home position. So it moves in Z first. And then it's going to move in XY. We can see the table's moving back. All right, now to the last line of code, which means stop program and return to the beginning. So if I hit cycle start, it should go back to the top of the program for us. At this point, this is where I would say, all right, let's run it at 100%. We know the program's proven out, we know it works. So I'm gonna press 100%. Only time we're gonna go to 100% is after you've proven out the program. All right? and then I'm gonna hit cycle start. All right, I'm gonna turn off single block. Now I'm gonna hit cycle start. So it goes to our position. All right, and then we can run it again. And this is just same thing over and over again, just kind of the point of a CNC machine. All right. To turn the machine off, I always want to take this tool out of the spindle. So if I look in the carousel, they're all numbered. So right now, tool 1 is going to go to pocket 1. I want pocket number 3. Pocket number 3 on this particular machine is empty. It doesn't have to be number 3. It could be number 4, 5, 6, whatever pocket doesn't have a tool associated with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the door. For us this week, pocket 3 or 4 should be empty. So you should be able to go to pocket 3 or 4. So I'm going to go to MDI. Got tool changes already in there, but I want to tell it a different tool. So I'll cursor over. I'm going to say T03. I'm going to just alter this, reset it, cycle start. All right, and then I'm going to press the emergency stop and then power off.